Maylin had never seen her grandfather wear his good shirt on an ordinary Sunday. Yet there he was at dawn, buttoning the stiff white collar, smoothing it down as though preparing for something solemn.
Today, the old Tanjong Pagar station closes its doors for good. The very last train will leave its platform tonight.
Maylin had passed the Grand Colonial Building 100 times without truly looking at it. To her, it was simply old. Its tall arches and weathered tiles belonging to another century she had never thought twice about. Grandfather, however, spoke of it the way some people speak of an old friend who is leaving forever. His voice low and tender. He pressed 2 crisp tickets into her palm, his fingers trembling ever so slightly.
Come with me, child. I want to ride it one final time, and I want you beside me when I do.
There was something in his eyes she did not yet understand. A glistening she had rarely seen there, but she folded the tickets carefully and nodded all the same. They arrived to find the station already crowded, humming like a hive that had been disturbed. Hundreds of people drifted beneath the high ceiling, cameras raised, voices hushed with a strange reverence. Maylin tilted her head back and properly looked, for the first time. 4 great marble figures stood guard above the entrance, and faded murals of rubber trees and fishing boats wound across the walls. The departure board still clattered, its little letters flipping over with a sound like falling dominoes.
I knew this place before you were born. Before your mother was born, even.
An elderly man nearby overheard and gave a knowing nod, and the 2 old strangers exchanged a smile that needed no words. Maylin realized, with a small jolt that rippled through her, that everyone here carried a story of their own, folded away inside them like a treasured letter. The station was not merely closing. It was being remembered all at once by a whole crowd of quiet hearts who had come to say a proper goodbye. While they waited, Grandfather led her to a quiet corner where a worn wooden bench sat against the wall. He lowered himself onto it and patted the space beside him.
This was my bench. 60 years ago, I sat here with a single suitcase and a heart full of fear.
Maylin listened, scarcely breathing.
He told her how, as a young man of 17, he had boarded a train from this very platform to take up his first job up north, far from everything he knew. I had $10 and no idea what lay ahead. My mother cried at the gate. I told her not to worry, that I would write every week.
He paused, his gaze drifting somewhere far away.
And I did, you know. Every single week, for 2 whole years, until I had saved enough to come home.
Maylin looked at the ordinary bench with entirely new eyes. To everyone else, it was just timber and nails. To her grandfather, it was the beginning of his whole adult life. whistle sounded, long and mournful, and a ripple of movement passed through the crowd. The platform doors had opened. Grandfather rose stiffly, steadying himself on Mei Lin's shoulder, and together they joined the slow river of people flowing towards the train. The locomotive waited like a patient old beast, its green carriages gleaming under the lamps. Conductors in crisp uniforms stood at every door, and Mei Lin noticed that even they seemed moved, blinking quickly as they checked the tickets. "Mind the gap?" one said gently, offering grandfather his arm. They found their seats by a window, the cracked leather soft with age. Outside, photographers crowded the platform edge, and somewhere a brass band had begun to play a slow, sweet tune. Her grandfather settled back into the worn seat, closed his eyes for a long moment, and breathed in deeply, as though trying to keep the very smell of the carriage inside his memory forever. Mei Lin slipped her hand into his and felt him squeeze it gently in reply. With a shudder and a sigh of steam, the train began to move. The platform slid away, and the crowd raised their hands in a silent wave that Mei Lin would never forget. Grandfather watched the marble figures vanish behind them and let out a long breath.
There she goes.
As the carriages rocked into rhythm, he turned to his granddaughter with a smile that was equal parts joy and sorrow.
You know, child, all good things must come to an end. I learnt that the hard way long ago. But an ending is not the same as a loss.
Mei Lin frowned, puzzling over his words. The city unspooled beyond the window, the old railway corridor a ribbon of unexpected green threading between the towers of glass. Wildflowers nodded along the tracks, and for a few miles it felt as though the train were slipping through a secret country hidden in the very heart of the busy island she thought she knew so well. As the train clattered on, grandfather's stories came pouring out, one after another, each tied to a passing landmark.
There, beyond that hill, your grandmother and I once missed our connection and had to wait 6 hours in the rain. We were furious at the time, but we shared an umbrella and a packet of biscuits, and by the time the next train came, I knew I would marry her.
Mei Lin grinned. She had never thought of her grandmother as a young woman laughing under an umbrella. Each mile brought another tale. The time he carried a crate of live chickens that escaped near Bukit Timah. The night he fell asleep and woke 3 stations too far. Mei Lin began to understand that the railway was not simply a line on a map. It was a thread of memory stitched through her family's history, and her grandfather was unpicking it for her, story by precious story, before it was folded away for good. Halfway through the journey, the train slowed at a small, disused halt where it had not stopped for years. Grandfather grew very still.
Your grandmother and I said goodbye here once, when I went away to do my national service. She stood right there on that platform and waved until I could no longer see her.
His voice caught, and Mei Lin slipped her hand into his. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the gentle tick of the cooling engine.
She has been gone 3 years now, but riding this train, I feel as though she is sitting right here between us.
Mei Lin understood then why he had wanted her to come. He was not merely saying farewell to a building. He was gathering up every memory the station held of the people he had loved and entrusting a few of them carefully to her. To lift the mood, Grandfather reached into his bag and produced a battered tin of Kaya sweets, the same kind he had bought from the station kiosk in his youth.
They still make them.
Mei Lin tried one too. It was sweet and faintly coconutty, melting on her tongue. Around them, other passengers had begun to share as well. A flask of tea here, a packet of peanuts there, strangers offering one another small kindnesses as though they were old friends. An auntie across the aisle passed Mei Lin a paper fan, and a little boy showed off the toy train he had been clutching all evening. The carriage, Mei Lin thought, felt less like a vehicle and more like a moving living room, full of people who had never met yet somehow belonged together. For one golden hour, the future and its uncertainties were quite forgotten, and there was only the warm, rocking present, sweet on the tongue and gentle on the heart. As night deepened, the train passed through the long stretch where the city lights gave way to darkness, and the windows became mirrors. Mei Lin saw her own face reflected beside her grandfather's, and for an instant the two seemed to blur into one.
When I am gone, people will pull down old things and build new ones, as they always have. That is the way of the world, and it is not wrong. But I hope you will remember that every new building stands on the bones of an older story. Nothing truly begins from nothing.
Mei Lin did not fully grasp his meaning that night, yet she sensed it was important. She tucked the words away carefully in her heart like a seed to be planted later, when she was older and wiser. The wheels sang their steady, patient song beneath them, and outside the window, the dark countryside rolled past, keeping its own ancient secrets close. She rested her head against the cool glass and let the gentle swaying carry her thoughts wherever they wished to go. The train reached the northern terminus and waited a while before beginning its slow return. Mei Lin had grown sleepy, lulled by the rhythm of the rails, but she fought to stay awake. She did not want to miss a single mile of this once-in-a-lifetime ride. Grandfather had fallen quiet now, content simply to look out at the passing dark. She studied his profile in the dim light. The deep lines of his face, the gentle curve of his smile, the way his hands rested folded in his lap. She thought of all the journeys those hands had begun and ended, all the goodbyes and homecomings they had known on this very line. It struck her quite suddenly that one day she would be the keeper of these stories, the only one left who knew them. The thought was heavy in her chest, yet not unwelcome at all. It felt somehow like being handed something fragile and precious and being trusted for the very first time to carry it safely forward into the years ahead. Somewhere in the small hours, the lights of the city rose again on the horizon, glittering like scattered jewels. The end of the journey was near.
Almost home.
Mei Lin realized she did not want it to be almost home. She wanted the train to keep going forever, carrying her grandfather's stories round and round through the night. Then the proverb he had spoken earlier returned to her, gentle and true. All good things must come to an end. She understood it now in a way she had not before. Not as a sad surrender to be feared, but as a quiet reason to treasure a thing fully while it lasted, to drink in every last moment of it.
Thank you, Gong Gong, for bringing me.
He squeezed her hand and did not trust himself to answer, but the look he gave her said everything. At last, the train glided back into Tanjong Pagar for the final time, and the platform appeared once more, ablaze with light and thronged with people. A great cheer went up, mixed with the bright flash of 1,000 cameras, yet beneath the noise lay something tender and grieving. The brass band struck up a final tune. Grandfather stood, gathered his bag, and offered Mei Lin his arm with old-fashioned courtesy. As they stepped down onto the platform, he paused and looked back along the length of the gleaming train, taking it all in one last time.
Goodbye, old friend.
He patted the carriage door as one might pat the neck of a faithful horse. Mei Lin felt a lump rise in her throat. She had arrived that very morning thinking this was just a dusty old building of no real concern to her. She was leaving with the certain, settled knowledge that she had witnessed the closing of a chapter in her city's life that would never, ever be reopened. Out on the concourse, as the crowd slowly dispersed, Grandfather found his old wooden bench one final time and sat. Mei Lin sat beside him. For a while, they simply watched the people drift away into the night, each carrying a small piece of the station home in their heart.
It is a strange thing to outlive a place. I half expected it to outlive me.
He smiled, but his eyes were bright with unshed tears. Mei Lin leaned her head against his shoulder.
It will not really be gone, though, not while you remember it, and not while I do either.
Grandfather looked at her then with a surprise that melted swiftly into pride. It was, she could tell, exactly the thing he had hoped she would come to understand. And hearing her say it aloud seemed to lighten a weight he had carried all evening. He kissed the top of her head and said nothing, for nothing more needed saying. In the weeks that followed, Mei Lin found she could not stop thinking about that night. She began to notice the old places of her city as she never had before. The shop house where her mother had grown up, the coffee shop where her parents had first met, the playground that had stood since her grandfather was a boy. Each one, she now understood, was quietly holding somebody's history, waiting patiently to be remembered. She started keeping a small notebook, and whenever grandfather told a story, she wrote it down before it could slip away. He pretended to grumble at her scribbling, but she caught the pleased gleam in his eye each time she reached for her pen. Slowly, the notebook filled with journeys and goodbyes, with biscuits shared under umbrellas and chickens loose on station platforms. It became, page by careful page, a small museum of her family, built not from marble and tiles and weathered stone, but from words and laughter and love. One Sunday, Mei Lin took her grandfather back to the site where the old station had stood. Much had changed. Hoardings now surrounded the land, and the bustle of new construction filled the air. Yet the grand colonial building itself still stood, for the authorities had promised to preserve and restore it as part of the city's heritage. Grandfather pressed his hand against the cool stone of a pillar and closed his eyes.
They are keeping you after all.
A slow smile spread across his face. Mei Lin watched a flock of swifts wheel above the rooftop, just as they must have done 60 years ago when a frightened boy of 17 had boarded his very first train. The station had ended one life as a busy working railway and was quietly beginning another as a guardian of memory and a keeper of the past.
Endings and beginnings were often the very same doorway, simply viewed from opposite sides.
Years later, when Mei Lin had grown and her grandfather had passed gently away, she returned once more to the restored station, now bright with new purpose yet faithful to its old face. In her bag she carried the notebook, its pages soft and worn from years of reading. Beside her walked her own young daughter, wide-eyed at the marble figures above the entrance. Mei Lin led her to a quiet corner where a worn wooden bench still stood, polished by the city in memory of all who had passed through.
This was your great-grandfather's bench. 60 years ago, a frightened boy sat here with a single suitcase.
Her daughter's eyes shone with the very same wonder Mei Lin had once felt. So the stories traveled on, passed gently from hand to hand, from a last train into a long and open future, proving that the things we truly love are never wholly lost. They simply change carriages and ride along with us quietly and faithfully all the way home.